Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome back to another recommendation list. This time going over the 5 films you should watch before you check out Alien Romulus. 2024 has just been an excellent year for independent horror, and we've had a couple of really solid big titles, but I'm telling you right now, as far as studio titles go, I think that Alien Romulus is going to take the cake by the end of the year. I think that this is going to be one of the biggest horror films to drop of the entire season, and I'm so excited for it. I mean, I have been a huge supporter of Fede Álvarez ever since he was announced for this project. I think that he is the perfect person to put in charge of the Alien franchise, and I cannot wait. I already have my popcorn bucket acquired, so yeah, I will be there opening night with you guys, sitting down, ready to be face-hugged and completely consumed by all of the Alien goodness. But with that said, I have to recommend some movies that you can watch before and or after you check out Alien Romulus that will kind of maybe enhance your experience, maybe give you something to kind of build up to. Now, I know what some of you guys are going to say. Well, hey, don't we have like a bunch of other Alien movies that you can watch before this? Yes, we do. But we like to do things differently on this channel, and we're going to recommend some different films, because, of course, I'm going to say, check out Alien and Aliens. I mean, Romulus is taking place in between those films, and those are definitively the best Alien films to watch. Alien is a classic sci-fi horror, and then Aliens is sci-fi horror, but with some badass James Cameron action in the mix, and I think that both those films are perfect movies. So yeah, check those out for sure. But if you've already seen them a million times like I have, and you've already probably watched them because you're so excited for Romulus, let's talk about a few more. And with that said, if you guys do like this video and you really enjoy this series, please give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and share this with your friends. And of course, leave your comments with what films you would recommend to watch before Alien Romulus, as well as just give me some feedback on these videos, guys. I really love it when you guys let me know just where your headspace is at with it, if there's anything I could do better, or if there is anything you want me to cover in the future. Kicking things off with number 5, we have a fresh watch for me. This is a film that Luke has been recommending to me for years. I don't know why I never saw this. I don't know why, because I can't put any blame on myself, of course. Why my father, I know you're watching this, Dad, why did you never show me Leviathan? Yes, from 1989. This movie is freaking awesome, and it's everything that I love and look forward to in a good sci-fi horror film. Perched onto the hull of a wrecked Soviet freighter, a team of deep-sea miners, led by the head oceanographer Steve Beck, come face to face with a mutant creature that's the product of a failed genetic experiment. Leviathan comes from director George P. Cosmatos, and again, this was a fresh watch. I have never seen this film before, and I seriously don't know why, because this is everything that I love. Like I said, this film is not the most original. I will give it that. This is very much borrowing from, of course, Alien, but not only that, it's borrowing elements from my favorite horror film, The Thing. And, it's the perfect combination of undersea horror, and, something about undersea horror that I think needs to be played up on more is that it has a lot of similarities to deep space horror. So even though this isn't taking place in outer space, you could kind of see why they're related, because, we haven't explored as much of our oceans as much as we've explored space, I guess. That's what they say, at least. But anyway, this film is just awesome. I think that, although, again, not incredible as far as the storytelling and the ideas go, it is a bit generic in some places, but I think that this has a lot of really great effects. The cast in this is top notch. I mean, we have the great Peter Weller leading this thing. We also have Ernie Hudson playing the role of Justin Jones in this. And man, I absolutely love the dynamic between these two. I think that they are a lot of fun on screen together. And yeah, I mean, as far as 80s adventure horror films go, this one's great. I mean, I had a lot of fun experiencing this film for the first time. And I think that if this is something that you haven't seen before, you absolutely should do yourself a favor and check it out, because yeah, I was completely impressed. And you know, you would think after all these years of being friends with Luke, I would just learn to shut up and listen to him and watch something when he recommends it. But yeah, I mean, I deprived myself until now, and I'm very, very happy that I sat down and checked out Leviathan, and I think it's a film you should definitely watch before Alien Romulus. Moving on into my number 4 pick with 2017's Life. Now, for a film with as big of a cast as this has, I feel like this thing's pretty underrated. Now, again, just like Leviathan, is this really breaking new ground when it comes to kind of the Alien-esque subgenre that we have here? No, not really. But I think it does it really, really well. I think there's a lot of really unique scares in this. And again, when you have a cast as stacked as this, you can't help but have some really charismatic and honestly very, very interesting kind of scenarios and concepts that get brought up between these characters. A team of scientists aboard the International Space Station discover a rapidly evolving life form that caused extinction on Mars and now threatens all life on Earth. This film was directed by Daniel Espinosa and, of course, stars the great Jake Gyllenhaal, as well as Ryan Reynolds and Rebecca Ferguson. Those are kind of our 3 main leads, but we do have a pretty great supporting cast with some of the likes of Hiroyuki Sanada. I mean, one of the best when it comes to kind of the sci-fi genre. He's popped up in a lot of different films. And yeah, I think that they do a great job with this one. Again, I think that this one being a bit more of like a contemporary space film where you're not dealing with like, you know, futuristic deep space stuff. They're on the International Space Station and they pick up a kind of an amalgamation of cells from Mars, and they call it Calvin because it's life. And they end up having to resuscitate Calvin, and he does not like that very much. And yeah, they have to deal with this horrific alien creature as it just takes them out one by one. Very similar to Ridley Scott's original film. But I like the way that they handled this. I think that, you know, although, again, not being the most unique concept and really kind of, you know, taking a lot of familiar beats from that first film, I do think they find their own way with it. I think that the ending is really impactful. And again, I just think that the cast is great here. I think that they all play off of each other really well. They're very convincing. There's a lot of really great twists and turns that this story takes. And I just have a really fun time every time I sit down to watch Life. Again, I think this is pretty underrated. So if this is one that you kind of passed over a few years ago, I'd highly recommend checking it out. It is a very fun time, and I think that, you know, this is a good one to just throw on like a Sunday afternoon when you want to be entertained, but you're not looking for something that's going to melt your mind or be a huge commitment. Moving on into number 3, you know this list would not be complete if I didn't recommend something from our Alien Romulus director's filmography, and I think there's only one clear pick, and that is 2016's Don't Breathe. 3 delinquents break into the house of Norman, a Gulf War veteran who is blind, to steal his money. However, much to their horror, they discover that Norman is not as defenseless as he seems. I know Fede Álvarez really broke out onto the scene for many of us with the Evil Dead remake, and he did a bang-up job with that. I absolutely adore the 2013 remake, but Don't Breathe is his first original property. He co-wrote this, and he brought this to screen all himself, and it really showed us what this guy is capable with. And I'm excited to see him take on the Alien franchise, not only because I know he's going to be really faithful with the effects, I think that he's a bang-up writer, but because of Don't Breathe. This film has to deal with a lot of tight spaces, maneuvering around a house with a dangerous being, which ends up being, of course, our blind man Norman, who is played absolutely beautifully by Stephen Lang. This also has the likes of Jane Levy from Evil Dead 2013, so they reteam for this. And, of course, we have, some of you might know him, Dylan Minetti, I believe it is. He's also in this. And, I think that for this being such a small cast, they do get quite a lot out of them, but really I think the best thing you can take away from Don't Breathe is just the intensity. There's a lot of twists and turns in this story as well that will keep you on the edge of your seat. There is one towards the end of this film that is an absolute gut punch. And yeah, I just think that as far as horror films go from the last 10 years or so, Don't Breathe is one of the best. I really think that this showed what kind of a force Fede Álvarez is behind the camera, but also in the writer's room. I mean, this guy absolutely crushed it with this film. And again, if there's anything that you should watch from his filmography to get you excited for what he's going to bring to Alien Romulus, I definitely think that Don't Breathe is the one you should watch. Moving on into my number 2 pick with what many horror fans would probably say is the only film that can stand shoulder to shoulder when it comes to Alien and aliens, and that is 1997's Event Horizon. Yes, this film comes to us from Paul W.S. Anderson, who would later on go and actually play with some xenomorphs himself with the first Alien vs. Predator, but I think that this was a much more successful outing. A rescue crew is tasked with investigating the mysterious reappearance of a spaceship that has been lost for 7 years. I'm starting to realize that this might be a trend, but Event Horizon also has a very, very star-studded cast. But before I get into that, I do want to discuss just how influential I think this film has become. Again, coming out just before the 2000s, it's one of those movies that has kind of gained a reputation for itself over the last 20 years of just being the quintessential space Lovecraftian horror film for a lot of people. And I know that might be blasphemous for some of you, but seriously, Event Horizon has just absolutely taken many horror fans by storm and has won so many of us over. And I am also a fan. I think that this is a very, very interesting, thought-provoking, torturous film that has elements of like Hellraiser and Doom and all of these other wonderful IPs that kind of get meshed into this almost like beautiful symphonic kind of movie. It's very strange in that way. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't understand how Paul W.S. Anderson could make something like this and then stay with the Resident Evil franchise for, God, what was that, like 7 entries? Who the hell knows? But seriously, I mean, this cast in this film is top-notch. This is, of course, led by the great Lawrence Fishburne, who kind of plays our captain on this. I believe it's Captain Miller. And then we have Sam Neill as kind of this overseeing doctor who they've tasked to kind of help them, look and kind of find out what's going on with this ship, because he helped design some of it. And yeah, I mean, other than that, we do have some other great folks in here. There's, of course, Jason Isaacs, who pops up in this, and I think it's Sean Petrie, but he's from Dog Soldiers, and I just absolutely fucking love every time he shows up. But yeah, I mean, as far as like hard R science fiction horror goes, Event Horizon is one of the absolute best. And yeah, this is hard R. There's a lot of disturbing imagery through this. There's a lot of really twisted shit. Like I said, very Hellraiser-esque stuff in this as well. And I think that this is absolutely a must-see if you're an Alien fan. But if you just like sci-fi horror in general, you can't go wrong with checking out Event Horizon. And I think absolutely, if we want to talk about like sci-fi horror or space horror, this is one of those ones that you absolutely should check out if you've never seen it before you check out Alien. And finally, we have made it to my number 1 pick, which I have to be completely honest, this was a very tough list to come up with. Not necessarily to come up with the picks or selections for it, but to decide the ranking of it, because I honestly love all of these movies. And, I think that there's different reasons kind of why I put movies in certain places on these lists, and I don't necessarily want these to be like a definitive ranking. I know I said that very early on when I started doing these videos, but I think more so than ever, I need to emphasize that, because this is a list of, just in my opinion, great sci-fi horror films that you should watch all of them. Even Don't Breathe, which isn't sci-fi, but is a fantastic horror movie. And the reason that I'm choosing this last one is primarily because I think it's, again, very underrated. I think that this is a movie that more people need to check out and give a chance. It does have horror elements to it, and it does have, of course, those sci-fi elements as well. And I'm talking about 2007's Sunshine. A team of international astronauts is sent on a dangerous mission to reignite the dying sun with a nuclear fission bomb in the year 2057. For me, Sunshine was one of those movies that I remember, I think my dad rented this from Blockbuster back in the day. We had gotten it, and, I was into sci-fi, I was into, of course, aliens and all that, and I watched this, and it just went way over my head. I was too young, I thought that it was okay, it was kind of weird, but when I revisited it a few years later, I think when I was in high school, I got so much more out of it. I mean, like, the messaging and just the way that Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, who are behind this film, chose to kind of take the humanistic angle to this, where it's these people who are essentially going on a suicide mission. They're really doing all they can and sacrificing their own lives and benefits to try to save humanity by reigniting our sun. And to see what they go through, and to kind of have this metaphorical horror element that they bring into it, it really leads to some very, very effective and scary imagery. Now, this cast is, again, just like all of these films, absolutely stacked, with the likes of Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Rose Byrne, Cliff Curtis, and, of course, Hiroyuki Sanada is back again. Yes, he shows up twice on this list in this film, and there's a few others who are in this as well that I'll save for you, but I mean, I think that Sunshine is just one of the deepest and one of the most emotionally resonant sci-fi films that we have of the last probably 20 years. It's one that I always kind of go back to and I think about whenever I'm trying to kind of rack my brain on just important, really interesting, introspective sci-fi movies. And again, this does have some really dark horror elements. Some of our characters get put through some really horrific and terrible things, and I absolutely think that they kind of blends those two elements together really, really well. I know more people would probably say this is more thriller than sci-fi horror, but I definitely know that those vibes are there, especially when you're talking about certain scenes where people are, again, putting their life on the line just to continue the mission. And I think that this film, again, is completely underrated and more people need to check it out. So that is why, even though it's probably not the purest horror film that I can recommend for the Alien Romulus list, it is the one I'm going with as my number one, because again, I think more people need to appreciate the brilliance of Sunshine. There you have it, guys. There are 5 films you should check out before you go see Alien Romulus this weekend. And of course, like I said, watch Alien and Aliens, and you will definitely find yourself in some good company with all of this wonderful sci-fi horror. But I'm, again, so beyond excited for Romulus. I think that this film is going to be excellent, and if it disappoints me, I will cry like a little bitch. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. Again, if you like this video, hit that like button, share this with your friends, and of course, if you think we deserve it, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, I'm excited. The next couple of lists will be pretty fun as well. And yeah, I got some pretty cool ones coming around the corner that aren't just based off of new films coming out. We've got some fun topics that I've been putting on the community posts that will be hitting soon as well. So that's all I have for you. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to sign off and just say thank you for watching. And yeah, I'm Dylan Newell. And remember, stay scared.
Do the horror shit, gonna do it live, cause Splattercast kick it. Every day they live.
Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.